Welcome to this introduction to exhibition design, specifically for our graphic students. So just a few points before we begin. So if you came to the exhibition space last year, you'll have noticed the setup that we had. So each student will have a space that's comprised of two boards which measure 122 by 244. Now, often than not, the boards are shaped like this in an L shape. Sometimes they can be flat. However, the vast majority of your space will look something similar to this. Now, in graphics, the way that you will design your exhibition space is very different to the other subject areas. And I suppose the easiest way to explain it is that you've got to imagine almost that your board is like a Behance page. So when you're doing your research and you look at Behance, you see the way that they lay the screen out like this, where it tells the story of the project. So in this instance, it starts with that idea of branding, it looks at typography, it looks at colours, and then it shows how that's being adapted to print, how that's being adapted to screen. Your wall is going to look like an analog version of this. So we've got some examples of old exhibition spaces. Now, previously to our prints, we used to get giant stickers printed. Now, these have become far too expensive, but the principle really is the same. So some students have TV screens in their spaces, some students have products that they've built. This student, you can see, has a little shelving unit that is housing some of the prints that she sold at the event. Here you can see there's a lot of screen grabs because this is actually an architecture project. And these were some examples from last year. So you can see how the printing has changed, but the principle of it is the same. Now, we've decided this year that, as you'll know, last year was just the coursework. That's all the students had to do. The exam was cancelled. So this year you're going to have one wall with your exam on, one wall with your coursework on. And we think a print that is 1 metre by 150, which is this size, we don't think that's going to be big enough. So we have priced up some prints, and for 100 by 200 centimetre print, two of them will cost £25.80, and it's printed on paper, so it's just like we did last year. And then when the exhibition is done, you can take that away with you. So this is what it would look like. So you'll have one wall with your component 1, one wall with your component 2, and the sizes of these prints are 100 centimetres by 200 centimetres, printed at 300 pixels per inch. Yep, and we ordered that through a company called PixArt. 95% of people, especially those of you that have done branding, are going to showcase parts of your project. So here's some examples here. So if we look at specifically this one, the way that she's laid this out, she's put the branding at the top of the page. She's then highlighted some of the magazine content because this was a magazine. In the centre, she's got mock-ups of the prints. Now, the reason why we use mock-ups is to put the design into context. Sometimes if you just have a flat image, it looks like a poster. And some of you, aren't just designing posters, you're designing magazines, you're designing apps, you're designing websites. So we use mock-ups to just put it into context. You don't get any extra marks for mock-ups. I just think it's good practice to use them. And then you can see she's got a branding key there. This was all linked in with her branding. So each of these symbols referred to something. So like one of them referred to an arts piece, one of them referred to music. And then at the bottom, she's got some screen design. So you can see that that's designed horizontally. She split it into those sections. If we then look at maybe another example here, so this was again for a magazine. This time it's a bit odd because at the top it's designed horizontally and then at the bottom it's designed vertically. I still think it works though. So you can see at the bottom of the design, she's got her branding, she's got some images that were included in the publication that she designed, and at the top there's some more pages from that publication. She's left a gap in the centre there to place the magazine. Now do be wary of that. Because you are printing on paper, the actual paper is going to be suspended in front of your board. It's not actually going to be attached to your board. So if it is that you're going to do anything like publications, have anything like that printed, or products, speak to your teacher, because you might just have to alter the sizes of these boards that we're showing you. Now, your board doesn't have to be laid out like that. It doesn't necessarily have to be set up like a Behance wall, as I call it. Some students in the past have had their final piece as the print on the wall. So this is an example of an infographics. It was actually an exam from a few years ago to do with the solar system. So she designed all this in the exam, the 15 hours. So she opted to have just the wall as her final piece. It's the same here. So this was a piece of coursework. So he produced infographics to do with football, and that was all related to live scores, things that were happening that season. And then the one at the end is the Adventures of Cupman. So as you can imagine, as you can see, this was a comic, and he just literally had all the pages of his comic on the wall. So you could do that if you want to. If you just want the final pieces on the wall, that is fine. Now, some of you, especially those of you doing architecture, you may have some models that you've created. Obviously, you need to think about how these will be presented within your space. So Nicole last year, she opted to have a plinth, so it had her model on the plinth. It also had a QR code that linked some animations and videos of that. So you can do that if you want to with the plinth. Also, those of you that have done some screen printing, or if you are doing publications and you have your publication printed, you can attach anything to the sides of your boards. So Liv last year printed some of these tote bags which she sold. You can have them, just put some nails in the edge of your boards, and you can have that. You can also add shelves if you want to. You can have a plinth at the bottom. Because of the exam questions this year, I do think we're going to have quite a lot of students that will have products, whether it be like the wine bottles, whether it be the equipment or the apparel for Rappel. So you do need to think a little bit about how you're going to present that in your space. There may be some of you who are doing some video work. So obviously the Seaside project, some students are doing a short film for that. So obviously you will have a TV screen. There's several ways that we can present your final piece in a screen. You can have it here on a plinth, or you can actually attach it to your wall. If it is that you're going to attach it to the wall, just think about what else you will have around it. Now, I don't have an example of a graphics TV that's on the wall. No one did anything like that last year. So these are actually photography examples, but you can see how we've mounted the TVs. It's quite neat. You could, like for example, the image here on the left hand side, where they've got that strip print, you could have maybe a strip going along the side, or if you're doing that Seaside project, you could potentially have some of the film posters above it. Some students have made products. This one is an idea for a coffee machine. So during the exam, she built this unit, and she built like the prototype for the app. So like the coffee machines that you get, like a Clicks machine, it was like her interpretation of that. On the other side, it was all to do with a flower company, like a subscription to having flowers delivered weekly. She opted to have some sort of flowers and foliage growing in her space on this very beautiful shelf. So you can do things like that, but you just need to make sure you measure everything and just double check with your teacher as to how you're going to put the prints around it or the strip next to it. And for those of you that are doing anything like the illustrations or like the card question, this is an example of what a student has done in the past, where she's made these very, very beautiful little books. And the way that you would read them is to pick up the magnifying glass next to it and read alongside them. So your space can be quite minimal, but please just you know, make sure that you measure everything, and if you're unsure, ask your teacher. So plan. The page that you are on now has all the facilities that you need. It has all the templates that you need for the prints. If it is that you are making your own template, maybe you're having to adjust it because of a TV screen, or maybe for some shelving units on your wall, just double check with your teacher, and make sure that you are building or creating the file to the right dimensions and set at the right DPI. Feel free to download this. This is a resource that you can use digitally, or you can print it and use it by hand, and draw your exhibition space. Over the next few lessons, your teacher's going to be sat down with you, talking you through your exhibition space. So feel free to fill this in. And then obviously this will then go onto your website or go onto your exam, into your exam folder, the material that you make in the 15 hours. I hope that's been helpful. Again, if you have any questions, always double check with a teacher, and please use the templates that we provide. Watch the videos on how to order through PicsArt, how to export your files correctly. Everything you need is here. And if in doubt, please ask us.